All right, so now we're going to take a look at multiple comparisons procedure, and we'll use multiple comparison procedure known as the Marasculi, I don't know how you say that, procedure. But if I wanted to know how to say that, you got any ideas? Have we learned this? I could put this in, and I could do that, and I could say define, and it's not giving me, a way to do the microphone. And I could try pronunciation. And then that can sometimes bring things up. So nope, how to pronounce. So maybe this would have something to do with it, but I'm not going to pursue that any farther. We begin by computing the three sample proportions. And so sample proportions, like we could go get our data to look at that. I'm just looking here to see if I brought any of that data in, and I haven't. So let's go grab that data. And so here are the observed and here are the expected. I'm just going to grab these and put them here. And then I'm going to bring observed down here. So that's this one and this one. So I'll bring that like right here. And I'm going to bring this one up. And this one I can make a little bit smaller. And bring this one up a little bit more. And I'm going to make this one smaller too, because really I'm not thinking that that's so important right there. And we'll make that like that, and then we'll bring this one here and bring it up, and then we'll make this one a little bit smaller. And if I grab them both at the same time, I wonder if they'll scale together. And it scaled, but in a weird way. So Command Z, and let's try this again. And I could, if I hold Shift, then it's proportion. That's pretty good. I like that. So there we have observed, and here we have expected. I'm just going to leave them like that. So here we have 69 over 125. So these are the observed 69 over 125, and 120 over 200, and 123 over 175. So we see the proportions here of people who would repurchase. They've said yes. And so just looking at this, you could see like Accord, a lot more people are going to repurchase if they have an Accord, and a lot less people are going to repurchase if they have Impala, and there's like a 15% difference here between those two. That's kind of cool. And so here we have, what, is that the same data? 55, 60, 70, 55, 60, 70, that's the same data. So here we have the same data. So just to make that clear, I'm just going to put that in the same area, and maybe I'll put a little border around that, and I'll just make it like that color and make it 2, and then copy that just so there's a little bit of graphical consistency between those two. So there we go. And so here you can see that's the same data. And this procedure, Sculio, we compute the absolute value of the pairwise difference between sample proportions. So P1 minus P2, right? 5520 minus 6 that, and then this one minus that, and then this one minus that. So you're just finding differences between those two. Here are the differences, right? Difference between 7 and 5 is 15, right? Between those two, between Accord and Impala. We kind of already did that in the previous step, the previous slide, just with our mind. And then they take the absolute value of this. So absolute value. So absolute value just means get rid of the negatives. Okay? You're getting rid of the negatives. We should all do that with our life. And pairwise, we're just pairing things up. I'm not sure what pairwise means. Kind of curious. And define it. And involving or forming a pair or pairs in pairs. So I don't know why they don't just say we compute the absolute value of the pairwise in pairs difference. I guess that kind of works. And I'm not sure if that was like a noun. It's an adjective or an adverb. So we're going to stop exploring that at this point. It's not an English class. But pairwise differences between sample proportions. So yeah, just the differences between the pairs. Again, there's an easier way to say that. Critical values for this pairwise comparison. For each comparison, compute a critical value as follows. And so for alpha 0.05 and k is equal to 3, chi square is equal to 5.991. And we know that already. So if we look at our little table, when we have k is equal to 3, for degrees of freedom, we're going to have k minus 1, 2, and we have 5.991 right here at 5% level of significance for 2 degrees of freedom, and they have 5.991 as their chi-square. And so that is all going to be computed, I guess, in the next and final slide. And so here I put this up here, this formula, so we could see it. And I'm kind of curious, like, why, what this is. So here we go. We've got the differences and PI minus PJ, Chevy, Impala to the Fusion. And so I'm just going to bring these and make it a little bit smaller. And I'll make this a little bit smaller just so we could fit a little bit more on this page. So that's just like for our reference from the previous page. And we'll bring this one up and over, just organize some information here, and bring this one over. And then what we also want to do is we want to see this data, 0.04. We want that data right there. So we're going to copy all this and put that here. And so we have 0.048, we have 15, we have 1029, and then we have this calculation here, the CV, and that's the critical value. And the critical values are and significant if this difference is greater than the critical value. So I guess that's how you test it. And so is this one greater than that? No. Is this one greater than that? Yes. Is this one greater than that? No. And so this one is significant. And we kind of eyeballed that at the very beginning, that the difference between an Accord and an Impala is a pretty big difference, 15%, right? And so, but this is how you do it with using, this Marsculio procedure, multiple comparisons procedure. And it's kind of a convoluted way of doing just what we did at the beginning, but you test the differences between the different ones, and then you calculate this, right? And so in this we have k minus 1 and we have alpha, and that gives us our 5.991, and we take the square root of that, and then we multiply it by all of this and the square root of all of that, and when we do that we get this value. So again, nice to know about it, nice to acquaint yourself with multiple comparisons procedures and the Marsculli pairwise comparison, right? Nice to acquaint yourself with that, and nice to kind of intuitively understand it. Yeah, there's a pretty big difference between those two, right? And but also nice if you're ever in a professional situation and you can say, well, I used multiple comparisons procedure and the Marsculli pairwise comparison, and the differences aren't significant at 95% level of confidence between Impala and Fusion and Accord, but they are significant between Impala and Accord. So you could then say that. That's Module 12, people. Congratulations. I'm pumped. I'm excited because now I'm going to go home and I got these videos all recorded for Module 12. We've learned some new things about statistics. I'm proud of you. You should be proud of you. The more you keep doing something, the better you get at it. So keep doing stuff, and you're going to keep moving forward. The more you learn in this life, the better, including learning how to get along with people better and how to work with people better and how to be a better friend and a better employee, and like the whole deal, man. So the more you keep learning, you could grow, you could improve. 100%, you could grow and you can improve. And every day you take steps towards doing that, you could go to bed at night and you could think to yourself, I spent my time well this day, right? Like I applied myself, I put in some effort, I did good stuff, I moved forward, I'm moving forward. And that's positive. And you have to consciously cultivate the positive. You have to consciously cultivate it. We're born with an inherent negativity bias. And so that is known in psychology. You can say, can you please explain the negativity bias in psychology? Okay, and it's so built into us that for the, we'll ask a question here, but for the first many decades of the field of psychology, psychology only focused on the negative. When did the field of psychology begin? Was it when, who was first psychologist? Harvard, like James or Stanley Hall? William James, there we go. William James, was it when William James began teaching psychology at Harvard? And it's really important to know this stuff, because if you learn how the mind works, you can more effectively work with the mind. if you learn how the mind works, you can more effectively work with the mind. And so the field of psychology began to emerge in the late 19th century, which would be the late 1800s. And William Wundt, 1879, psychology in Leipzig. I'm not sure where Leipzig is. We could right-click that and search Google for Leipzig. And Leipzig, oh, how beautiful. That's amazing. Leipzig, German. It's in Germany. Wow, how cool. That's so cool. And then William James began in 1890. So that's when the field of psychology started. And when did positive psychology begin? And was I gotta think about his name. And who was the founder? The name will come to me. Positive psychology. As soon as I see it, I'm gonna be like, that's right. Positive psychology began in 1990s, and Martin Seligman, that's right. And so, 100 years after the field of psychology began, psychology said, let's focus on the positive. Because prior to that, they were only focusing on the negative. They were only focusing on pathology. So this is how deeply embedded the negativity bias is into the human mind. And you might ask yourself, why does the human mind have a negativity bias? You can pause the video, you can read about this on the screen here. You can pause the video, you can read about this on the screen here. You can pause the video, you can read about that on the screen there. You might ask yourself, why does the human mind have a negativity bias? Because we are the descendants of people who are, survivors. You're a descendant of survivors. You are the apex, the tip of the spear of a long lineage of survivors. Like people and organisms going back all the way to the primordial soup and single cell organisms. Again, we could have differences in opinion as to what the origin of humans, right? And I subscribe to evolution, but going back, you are a descendant of survivors, right? They survived long enough to pass on their genetic code. You are a survivor. You come from a long lineage of survivors. So that's the first thing to know about your ancestors, that you come from a long lineage of survivors, right? You are this tip of the spear, this head of this ancestral heritage of survivors. You are a survivor. That's part of who you are. That's built into you. Okay? So we all come from that long lineage of survivors. And also we come from a long lineage of people who looked for what was wrong and what could go wrong. Do we have enough wood for winter? Do we have fresh water? Do we have a place that's safe and secure to sleep? Are we going to be protected from the weather and from the elements and from other animals? Is there a bear in that cave? We were looking for what was wrong and what could go wrong. We were vigilant. Our ancestors were. And that is also another way of saying we were negative. We were looking for what is negative. Not enough food, not enough shelter, not enough water, not enough safety, right? We were looking for what was wrong and what could go wrong. And so still today, we have that negativity bias that we came by honestly. It was baked into us through our evolution. And here's an illustration of the negativity bias. If you get a bunch of positive comments, right? It'll be okay, cool. And if you get one negative, you're going to be oh, I'm crushed. The negative is going to hit you harder than the positive. And so you have to compensate. When you know how the mind works, you can more effectively work with the mind. You have to compensate for that negativity bias. And you do that by staying positive, by looking for the positive, by cultivating positive perspective and emphasizing the positive and saying things to yourself at the end of the night to come full circle. I did a good job today. I did a good job today. I studied, I worked hard, I pushed the ball forward, I took good steps. And if you keep doing that every day, man, you're going to move. You're going to move. You're going to go distance. And so you just keep doing it. You just keep doing it every day, taking good steps. And over time, those steps all add up. One of my teachers used to say, drop by drop, the bucket gets filled, meaning you just keep adding those drops every day. And over time, pretty soon, your bucket's filled. And don't lament if your bucket's not filled, because when your bucket's totally filled and you've filled it up with all of life's wisdom, guess what? That's your life's run, right? So that's the game. You fill it up. You get better, you improve, you grow, you iterate, you change, you evolve. That's what we're doing here. We're learning. That's statistics. That's life. See you in the next video.